Welcome to another episode of Seeing Them Live, a podcast featuring memorable concert stories from live music fans. Everyone has a concert story, and hopefully, one day, we'll hear yours.
We're looking, and then we realize, like, oh, they're grabbing money that fell out of people's pockets who had been crowd surfing and whatever. And we just like look on the ground, and right there at our feet, a $50 bill. And we're like, holy shit, you know, and we like grab the 50 and we're like, hey, we found $50. And we're like, we're going to continue the night on someone else's dime.
My guest today is filmmaker and music enthusiast Steve Herold. Steve is a true multidisciplinary storyteller with a passion for both visual and musical art. He's the creative force behind the award-winning short film Death of an Umbrella Salesman. Beyond filmmaking, Steve is a dedicated physical media collector who shares his deep appreciation for CDs and vinyl on his popular YouTube channel, curating and revisiting music with both a fan's passion and a critic's eye. Steve, welcome to Seeing Them Live.
Hey, Charles, it's fantastic to be here talking with you today.
Yeah, we were chatting just a moment ago. I've watched a bunch of your videos and they're great. Does it have a name other than just your name?
You know, because the YouTube channel I started ages ago, that might have even been the very early days of YouTube, and I was just using my name. If I had started it now, you know, I probably, like most people who do that stuff on YouTube, I probably would have given it like a name connected to like record collecting or whatever. But yeah, it's just my name.
Yeah, and your last name spelled Herold.
Right. Yeah.
Herold?
Herold. Yeah, I think you pronounced it correctly. Yeah, Herold. Yeah. I have issues with that all the time with like paychecks and everything, you know. It always happens. It's a little bit unusual, I guess.
Yeah, so we'll jump into your YouTube channel in a minute and your films and stuff. But yeah, I wanted to start with your first concert, this Thompson Twins show. And based on the videos on your YouTube channel that I watched and listened to, I did a little detective work, Steve. And I think, were you about 14? Or you said you were 14 years old, but was this the Thompson Twins 1987?
No. I think I was 13 or 14.
Okay.
It was their 1984 Into the Gap tour. And it was the summer, it was like August of 1984. Me and my friend Andrew went. And not the reason why we went to see the Thompson Twins, but my first concert should have been Van Halen at Madison Square Garden in 1984, which I think would be a cooler story to tell because that was my favorite band when I was growing up. And that's when I really became a big fan of Van Halen, like a lot of people, when 1984 hit. And again, I was 13 or something like that. They were playing at Madison Square Garden. I was dying to go. And I don't know if you're familiar with Madison Square Garden, but if you're coming to Madison Square Garden from, say, like the suburbs, New Jersey or Long Island, whatever, you could take the train right into Penn Station. And Madison Square Garden's right above Penn Station. You literally can just take an escalator up and you're in the garden. You don't have to go out into the quote unquote mean streets of New York City.
Okay.
And I begged my mom if I could go see this Van Halen show. And it was like the, you know, quintessential cliche, like you can go if your friends can go. And then I was hitting up all my friends. I found at the time, the newspaper used to have ads for ticket scalpers in the classifieds. And I found a ticket scalper who was selling tickets to the Van Halen show. And I don't remember what they were. They might've been $40 or $50. And so the guy had the tickets, we could get them. And one by one, I hit up all my friends. Hey, Van Halen, I found a guy who's got tickets. My mom said I could go if you guys go, blah, blah, blah. And one by one, each one of them was like, my mom will let me go. My mom will let me go. So nonetheless, I couldn't go. And I was so bummed. And of course, that was the end of Van Halen, that version. And I never got to see them. But I think that kind of put the idea, that's sort of like my first memory of really kind of the idea of going to concerts. So that summer when the Thompson Twins, who I kind of liked, I mean, I wasn't a big fan. I wasn't familiar with anything. I didn't even know that they had put anything out previously other than I kind of liked that song, Hold Me Now. I was a big fan of music videos. So at the time I was just engrossed in music videos, and that was played a lot on the music video shows and stuff. And I liked that Hold Me Now song. I don't even know if I had the album that was from, but I just liked it. And they were coming to play at the what was called then the Garden State Arts Center, which was literally 15 minutes from my house. And Michael with trying to go see Van Halen. I know, Charles, we were like, what does this have to do with the time? It all is connected. All I connected, my friend.
Yeah, you're giving us some background here.
Yeah. So because of all that, this was 15 minutes away. My mom could drop us off. We're right there. We're not going into New York City by ourselves or anything like that. So then it was like, okay. So me and my friend Andrew went to see the Thompson Twins. Neither one of us I don't think he'd ever gone to a concert before. And the Garden State Arts Center is like what you call now a shed. It's, like an amphitheater. And we went, and like I said, I mean, I knew Hold Me Now. I don't even know. I might have known like one or two of the other songs from that album, but I wasn't really familiar with them. And we went, and it was kind of like an awkward experience, to be quite honest, in a way, because we had never been to a show before. We weren't that into it, and I just remember us kind of just sitting in our chairs a lot, we weren't like up, like standing with everybody. I mean, we didn't know the concert etiquette or anything at the time. And it wasn't like this, anything spectacular, but it is the first concert that I went to. And for a while I would tell people or I wanted to tell people my first real concert was 2 years later in 1986 when a bunch of us went to see David Lee Roth on his first solo tour. And that was at the basketball arena show, the parking lot adventures beforehand. It was that whole real concert experience. So for a while, I kind of would sometimes say that was my first, thing. I think I was I'm not anymore. I don't really care. But I think at the time, for a while, I was not embarrassed is maybe not the right word, but, I didn't really want to say the Thompson Twins was my first concert. I'd say David Lee Roth was. And now it's kind of funny because now the way his career's gone, I mean, maybe it's a little embarrassing to say David Lee Roth, my first concert. I don't really know, but whatever. Charles, it's a tale.
Yeah, exactly. Because, when I went to my first concert with my mom and my aunt and uncle to see the Eagles, I've told the story before. I was 11 because my dad wasn't feeling well that night. So I took his ticket. But I mean, holy cow, I'd never been to a concert. This is at the Chicago Stadium, 1976. I mean, there's a lot going on there for an 11-year-old.
Oh, yeah, I could imagine.
Or yourself, the Thompson Twins, I mean, it's the crowd, the music is louder than I've ever heard anything in my life.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe it was a good way to get your sea legs for David Lee Roth.
For sure. Yeah. Cause that was night and day, the two. And I don't have that's my only memory of that Thompson Twins show really is just that I remember, not that I wasn't really that into it because I didn't know most of the stuff they were playing and everything, but it was just that environment. I was new wave and all that, which I like. At the time, I don't know if I loved it all that much, but I do now. But yeah, it was just a different experience. And then the David Lee Roth show a couple of years later, that was more in my wheelhouse at that time. But yeah, just two completely different experiences for sure.
Yeah, and we'll get into it in a minute, but on your YouTube channel, there's videos about Van Halen.
When I got into Van Halen in '84, after that, I really kind of became a fanatic, whatever. I started collecting imports and bootlegs and 12-inch promos and all that stuff. I spent a chunk of my vast fortune on Van Halen nonsense for a number of years. I said before, my poor girlfriend back in the early 90s, I used to drag her to these record conventions and she had no interest in any of this, but she would go with me and I would be digging through all the bins and pulling out records and stuff that I was buying or miscellaneous Van Halen things. And I'd be in there digging and I'd pass it back here, hold this or whatever. And so she was kind of forced to come to those things with me and hold my merchandise that I would be wasting all my money on, But yeah.
Yeah, because in your videos, you show these records and CDs, you hold them up, you pull out the vinyl if it's got, colored or
yeah.
picture disc or whatever they call them.
Yeah, picture disc. I have a handful of that stuff. In those record videos, it's mostly that, just showing off stuff from my record collection. You try to kind of pick a theme or just new stuff that I picked up or the Van Halen stuff. It was just kind of showing off the old collection, that's gathering dust somewhere,
Yeah, that's interesting. And again, I keep going into your YouTube channel and we'll get to it in a bit, but your best concert you put is this band Dramarama. They're a New Jersey band. They formed like in 1982, and you saw them at this place called Fast Lane in Asbury Park.
Yeah. Dramarama, they're like an alternative band. They had a little bit of success in like late 80s, early 90s. They formed in New Jersey. They were discovered in a way by Rodney Bingenheimer. You're familiar with him, correct?
No.
He's a famous DJ in Los Angeles. There's a really good documentary about him called The Mayor of the Sunset Strip. And he came across their record and really liked it and told them they should move to California and move to Los Angeles. And they did. They took his advice. And so early in the 80s or mid 80s, they all relocated and were pretty much based in Los Angeles. And they were very popular in Southern California. I mean, they're very popular in Southern California and New Jersey, and that's about it. But they did have some chart success in like the late 80s, early 90s. A couple of their songs charted on the modern rock chart on Billboard, college rock stuff. But, they were kind of like our band, even though they had relocated to Los Angeles and New Jersey down in the Asbury Park area. They would always come and play shows at the Stone Pony or the Fast Lane, and we would always go see them. And they were always fantastic. And seeing Dramarama at the Fast Lane, it was probably the early 90s. Up until that time, all of the shows that I've been going to see were like in the basketball arenas at the Meadowlands or the Garden, whatever. When I saw Dramarama at the Fast Lane, which was like a small little club, and their shows would be packed. You had mentioned in an email correspondent, they played 2 nights back to back.
Yeah.
In Asbury Park. And that was common for them. As a matter of fact, they used to do a thing back then. A couple of times they did this and I went. They would play Friday and Saturday night, either at the Fast Lane or Stone Pony, wherever. And you could go buy a ticket for whatever night, or they would also offer like a deal. Like if you wanted a ticket for both nights, it was discounted. You'd get a break. I'd go to both shows. A bunch of us would go to both shows. So we'd see them Friday and Saturday. And they were kind of like our band. Even though they were from New Jersey, they were from northern New Jersey, but kind of was like our band. When they came to town, we always went and saw them. And I just remember going to see them that first time in the Fast Lane. It kind of like opened my eyes to this whole other side of going to see bands, not at big basketball arenas, in these smaller clubs, which Asbury Park had still at that time a few of. And so that was like a new experience. But I can remember just seeing them in this packed club. I mean, to the point where if you had to go to the bathroom, you couldn't even go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And they were like a college rock band, like alternative, but their shows were like punk shows. Like we'd be like hanging from like the rafters, like crowd surfing and everything. And it was just like insane. It was just like a whole new world compared to those like arena shows, and I loved it. And we always went and saw them. I remember even one time I think it was at the Fast Lane, like I had to go to the bathroom and I couldn't get to the bathroom because I was on the other side of the club, and the quote unquote backstage area was like right there. And I saw people going back there and I could sort of see there was a bathroom back there. So I kind of just went over there and just was like, I don't know, let me try this, and I just kind of walked over there just like I belonged, like I didn't stop and go, hey, can I use the bathroom? I just started walking to the bathroom and somebody stopped me and they're like, and I'm not making this up. It sounds cheesy as hell, but they stopped me and they said, where are you going? And I said, I'm not exaggerating. I said, I'm with the band. And the dude goes, what band? And by pure chance, I remembered the name of the opening band. And I don't remember what it is now, but whatever the opening band was, I just said, oh, I'm with them, and the dude was like, all right, and just let me go. I mean, I went and used the bathroom and went back out to the show. I wasn't like trying to like kind of meander back there or anything. But yeah, those shows were just like insane. They were incredible, just seeing those guys live. So yeah, I mean, those Dramarama shows, those early 90 Dramarama shows are like seared in my brain of just like some of the best concerts that I'd ever been to.
Have they been around recently, Steve?
Yeah. They put out a record in 2020 when COVID hit, but they split up, I think, in like 94 or something like that. And then they reconvened maybe like in the mid 2000s or something. They got back together and they put out a record, but they started playing shows again. And they still, to this day, they still play shows. I mean, I saw them maybe a year ago. They came through Asbury Park and I saw them. So yeah, they're selective. But like I said, they're really kind of like Southern California, New Jersey. I don't know that they really play the rest of the states. I don't know if it's because they're not really a draw there or financially it might just not be worth it for them. I don't know. But yeah, they still pretty regularly play shows.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I remember you made me think of this show I saw, L7.
Okay. Yeah.
This place in Chicago, which has since been torn down, like the fast lane,
Right.
called Lounge Acts. And holy cow, that place was packed. And I would too try to go to the bathroom. I made it, and we were right up by the stage, and I barely made it back. I mean, it was tough to get back to where we were because, everybody's giving me a dirty look.
Yeah.
Like, where are you going?
Yeah, those shows are pretty special. Those smaller like club shows when they're packed like that, especially when you're like in your college age or whatever, those shows are pretty magical.
It's definitely a cool scene. So, Steve, we got a couple more concerts to chat about here. I guess we could do the disappointing one. This Jeff, the Brotherhood, you saw at Maxwell's in Hoboken, and I put that at like 2012, maybe. Is that correct?
Probably. I mean, I probably could have looked up, but yeah, in that vicinity. So Jeff the Brotherhood, I started going to a lot more shows. Like I think I kind of like eased up at one point and wasn't really going to a lot of shows. And then when I was working in New York City, a couple of friends who were into shows, we'd start going to see concerts more often, because I was there already. I wasn't living in New York, but I was working there. So we were already there. And I had a couple of friends that I worked with, we started going. I remember we saw the Strokes, the Yeah, Yeah, Yeahs. I reconnected with an old punk band that I loved in my teen ages, Agent Orange, my favorite punk band. They started playing shows in New York and we'd go see them a lot. So we started going to see a lot more shows. So I wasn't really being picky or anything necessarily. And Jeff the Brotherhood, I knew of. I may have had one of their records. I think I have like 2 of their albums. But at that time, I think I just knew a couple of songs and I liked them. And they were playing at Maxwell's, which was a phenomenal club. I loved that place. But again, small, tiny club, just really amazing shows at that place. So they were playing there and it was just like, yeah, I like those songs that I know by them. Why not go see them? It probably wasn't very expensive. It might've been like $15 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think it was just me and this girl that I worked with. We went. And I don't think she knew them at all. And I just said, me and her went to a handful of shows and I just kind of not convinced her, but I just said, hey, you want to go check them out with me? And she was like, yeah, sure. And we went. And what was disappointing about it was that they didn't play the songs that I knew. And it almost felt like we were at like a rehearsal, which I guess on one hand could be interesting if you were really, really into the band. That might be cool, but I wasn't. I just knew a couple of songs. And they just kind of jammed on stage for the entirety of the show. I mean, it almost felt like it was just one continuous jam session. And I barely even remember them singing, and it was just like, I don't know. And the fact that maybe that I dragged her to the show maybe played into the fact that I was like, she's probably like, what the hell are we doing here? So it was disappointing on that level. It was just kind of like a show that didn't go the way I thought it would. And again, I'm not that familiar with that band, so I don't know. That might be what their shows are like.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I didn't like hate it or anything. It wasn't like, oh, this is awful, but it just was like, I would have hoped they would have played at least one of the songs I knew. And it wasn't like they had a huge catalog, so wishing they'd play like one of those tunes that they put out as a single or whatever, wouldn't be asking a whole lot. So yeah, it was disappointing. I wouldn't say it was like the worst show I ever saw or anything like that. It was just disappointing nonetheless.
I could see that. I've been to shows like that, sort of, and it's maybe not as structured, which in some cases can be good.
Yeah, like I said, I think if a band that I was a huge fan of did something like that, I might be kind of cool with it because you're sort of like, oh, we're seeing a different thing here, But the fact that it was like a band that I knew like 2 or 3 songs and that was it and didn't really know what the show was going to be like or whatever. It was just, you just kind of walked away like, a little disappointed, whatever.
Yeah. All right. Well, then if we move on to surprising, your most surprising concert was the Sex Pistols. This was a 1996 reunion at Roseland Ballroom in New York City. Is that correct?
Yes. Roseland Ballroom it's gone now. It was a famous venue from back in the day. I guess it used to be like one of those like dance halls from the old New York City. Famous place. Bands all played there. I actually got on stage there one time. I went and saw Goldfinger and they invited people to come up on stage. It was like, anybody want to come up on stage? Come on up. And I was there with my buddy Pat and we were like, hey, why not? Let's go up on stage, So it was like a 1-2 experience of being on stage with Goldfinger, who I was a fan of, but also like looking out, like this is a famous place, and just being on that stage and like looking out at the crowd at Roseland and just having that experience was probably better than being on stage with Goldfinger. And this was like, I didn't have a cell phone. My buddy Pat might have, but this is like early 2000. I don't know if he had a cell phone on him or if he did. I don't even know if it had a camera. So we don't unfortunately have like the evidence of that. But, we have the experience, we lived it. We don't necessarily need the photographic proof. And so 1996, I'm living in Los Angeles. I come home for that summer to visit friends and family. And by pure coincidence, I'm there when the Sex Pistols are on their reunion tour going across the United States. They're going to play at Roseland. My friend Sean, he was supposed to go with his brother, Billy. And I think Billy broke his leg or something like that and couldn't go. So Sean's like, you want his ticket to see the Sex Pistols? And I was like, yeah, of course, I'll go see the Sex Pistols. So we go up there and it's a night of debauchery. We were just on all kinds of stuff, Charles. You know what I mean?
In true Sex Pistols fashion.
Yeah, we were taking in the moment. We get to Roseland. I remember like we got up to the front and then I felt like sick as hell. And I was like, I got to get out. It was like just, it was a madhouse. And I was like, I got to get out of here. I feel like I'm going to be sick. I'm like I was really messed up. And I'm just like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle this. And I get out of the crowd and I go to the back of Roseland just to kind of get my bearings. And I'm standing there and Sean had stayed up front there. And a couple minutes later, he like comes out of there and finds me. And I kind of felt better at that point. Maybe I just needed some air or whatever, got my second wind. And so I was like, yeah, let's go back up there. So we go back up, we're up at the front of the stage. And it was just like, I know it's 1996. I know it's a reunion there. It's a cash grab, whatever you want to call it. I'm not blind to the fact this isn't 1977 or 78. We're not in the height of the original punk movement or whatever, but it was great. And it was a fantastic show. And there's spit flying everywhere. And people are just going crazy, crowd surfing and everything. And it was a great show. And afterwards, we were just wiped out. We're drenched in sweat and everything. And the show's over in Roseland, the crowd starts clearing out, and leaving. And we're just standing around. We're just spent, we don't know what to do yet, and we're just standing there. And all of a sudden we're like looking around and we see all these people just diving for the ground. And we're like, what's going on here? We're looking and then we realize like, oh, they're grabbing money that fell out of people's pockets who had been crowd surfing and whatever. And we just like look on the ground and right there at our feet, a $50 bill. And we're like, holy shit, and we like grab the 50 and we're like, damn, we found $50. And we're like, we're going to continue the night on someone else's dime. And it was a great night. And we went out, we got some more drinks and food and whatever. But the funniest thing about that night was Roseland's like in the middle of the theater district in New York City. And it's a Wednesday night. And Wednesday night is also the night of Broadway shows. And we come out of Roseland, all these people at the punk show come out of Roseland, drenched in sweat, dressed however. And it's the same time as all the theaters are getting out. So it's like something out of a movie. It's like you picture this street in the theater district in Manhattan. And this door opens up and all these like punk fans come out from the punk show. And at the same time next door, all these people dressed up for their night at the theater come out. And it's just this like conversion of crowds trying to maneuver past each other. It would have been amazing to watch that from above, like watch from like a second story window, just seeing these two crowds merge on the streets of Manhattan or whatever. But yeah, that was an amazing show. And it never dawned on me. I'd been to other shows where people were crowd surfing or whatever. It never occurred to me to go like, oh yeah, there's probably money falling out of these people's pockets,
Yeah, now that you mention it, I told you that I found during Lollapalooza 2015, I think it was maybe it was 2009. Yeah, I found $70 laying in the grass.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why.
Yeah, it never occurred to me. It seemed obvious now, like, yeah, of course. But like up till that time, it never occurred to me to like go, oh yeah, there's probably money laying on the ground here. These people waited around till the end. They're not trying to get a set list or anything. They're trying to get a couple bucks off the ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah, $50 was a good haul.
Yeah, it was great, man. It was the best thing. That's 1990s $50. And that went a long way,
Yeah, I was reading about that place a little bit, the history. And I guess before they tore it down. The last performances there were 6 nights with Lady Gaga in 2016.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, Manhattan has changed. New York has changed a lot. I don't know what the situation was, why it closed necessarily. Maybe you and your research saw, but that was a big bummer when that place closed. That was a great venue. I loved that place. You know, it was an amazing place to see bands. I don't know what the story was, but like I said, that tale can be told about a lot of places in New York City. But yeah, I was sad to see that place go. It was an amazing place to see shows.
Yeah, it sounds like a similar venue. Here we have in Chicago, the Aragon Ballroom,
Right, right.
like 100 years old and same kind of thing. And I couldn't imagine that place not being around anymore. That would be a major bummer, you know?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Charles Zona, and we're glad you are enjoying this episode of Seeing Them Live. If you would like to be a guest on the podcast, please fill out the form on our website at seeingthemlive.com. Also, if you like the show, please give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And now, back to the show. All right, Steve, so those were your concert stories. You want to talk about your YouTube channel a little bit?
Sure. Well, I started it like a lot of people did when COVID hit. Needed something to do. I work in TV production. That whole business pretty much closed down and we didn't know when or if we were going to work again. And so I was just sitting around at the time and I'd seen a couple of people doing things like that on YouTube where they were just showing off their record collection and what have you. And I thought about it and I was like, oh, it seems kind of interesting. I felt like that was something that I could probably do and have fun doing. I never approached it as something where like I was trying to like monetize it or turn it into something, you know. I just thought it'd be kind of fun to pull out some of my records and talk about them and what have you. And that's what I did. And at the time I was kind of between apartments and I have vinyl and I have CDs, but most of my collection CDs, but those were all boxed up in storage. But my vinyl was out. So I just started talking about my vinyl and, you know, just talk about like whatever crossed my mind about it, like history with the band, how I got into the band, discovered the band, or, you know, where I bought the record, a certain record store. Like I said, I work in TV. I travel all the time for work. And whenever I travel for work, wherever I go, I always look up local record stores and visit them. So, you know, I would just talk about that stuff. And that's basically what I've been doing. And then I guess maybe a year after I started it, all the stores started opening up again and everything. And I started making videos about like filming when I go to these record stores on the road. And those are my favorite ones to do. I like highlighting some of these record stores that I get to visit in my travels and, you know, show off what I found there, show off the store. I mean, I don't have like 1 million followers or anything. It's not like I'm necessarily giving them free publicity. I mean, I am, but nobody's walking into those record stores going, hey, Steve told me to come visit these. But I like doing it thinking that, because I do this myself. Sometimes if I'm going someplace and there's a record store and I'm kind of like debating, you know, maybe there's a couple and I'm like, which one should I visit or whatever? You know, I look up online and see if I find any videos or anything of those stores. And that kind of maybe helps in me deciding if I'm going to visit them or whatever. So I like to think that, you know, these things are out there on YouTube. If somebody's visiting, like right now I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, there's a great record store here called Monster Music. So if somebody was like, hey, I'm going to visit Charleston, I wonder if there's any cool record stores there for me to visit. I'd like to think that maybe they would do a search. It might lead them to a video that I've made about Monster Music and they'd see it and go, hey, that place looks pretty cool and check it out, you know?
Yeah, because I've gone to record stores. I don't go a lot, but occasionally. And I went to one and I didn't know it. When I walked in, it was all like punk music. Not that that's bad. I mean, I like some punk stuff, but that was it. That's all they had, you know, because I was looking for like a Peter Gabriel album or something.
Oh, and they didn't have it, Charles?
No, I didn't make the cut on that one.
Did you go up to the counter and go, oh, where's the Peter Gabriel section?
I did actually, but he leaves me these bins and he's like, yeah, we don't really have that kind of music here. And I'm standing there talking to him and I see this G.G. Allen album.
Well, he's a little like Peter Gabriel, right?
Well, I asked him, I said, oh, you ever read his book? I think it's called G.G. Allen and the Murder Junkies.
Right.
It's like a super disturbing memoir.
Yeah. Well, I know G.G. Allen
but, you know, I drove a fair distance to go there and it was, you know, kind of a bust.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I collect vinyl and CDs, but the format of choice, I guess, is CDs. So like sometimes similar to your point, it's like I'm looking sometimes at those record stores, like, do they have CDs? You know, like I'm not looking for any vinyl right now. I'd prefer to pick up a CD cheaper, whatever. And so like sometimes I'll look at those record store videos somebody did or what have you, or just a review, a Yelp review or whatever. But I'm sometimes like looking to see, like, do they even have that? I have this problem sometimes when I go into these record stores, especially these smaller stores. I kind of feel like weird going in and leaving without buying anything, whatever you want to call that. I do feel a little weird because I know they don't make a lot of money. I feel like a little obligated, like, I want to support them somehow and I want to pick something up. But if I go into a store and it's just vinyl, and I'm like, oh, shoot, because, vinyls can be very expensive these days. And now I'm like, am I going to be buying something for $30 that maybe I don't really even want? So like, I'll do research just to make sure to see what they have, like what kind of selection they have or whatever. Or in your case, if I found like some place, I don't really like country music. And if I walked into a record store and it was like, all we got is country, I'd be like, where's the G.G. Allen?
Yeah, it is helpful, especially when you're traveling and you're not familiar with the area. Those little tidbits of information may not be on their website.
Right. The YouTube videos I did, I mean, I still talk about like my collection and stuff like that, but the videos I got to do on record stores I visited became the highlight for me, what I look forward to the most, doing those and just talking about the stores and their selection and just being able to show them off a little bit, just so you can get a sense of what the store's like or what have you.
Yeah, that's super cool. There's 678 videos, I think.
Oh my God, you just depressed me. No, I'm just kidding. But at the same time, Charles, I do like going to those stores. I do like that experience of going through them. And the funny thing is my friends some of them will still go to shows here and there, not like a ton, but none of them, I have like maybe one or two friends from where I live, friends that I have known for a long time who maybe still buy records, like maybe one or two. Most of them don't though. And the other thing about making those record store or the record collection videos on YouTube, that it introduced me to a lot of people who I consider friends now who also make record collecting videos. I mean, there's a friend of mine, JT, who lives out in Reno. I went and visited him when I was on the West Coast and we went to a store. We went record shopping out there, and my friend Monty Muse, who lives in Southern California, she and I went to a record store, and it's just nice having people that are into that I could talk to about that stuff. Cause most of my friends who I hang out with, they're not really into that record collecting and stuff. So they don't want to really talk about that. So the other side of making those videos that I didn't expect was that I became friends with a lot of these people who share that interest. And like I said, they've become friends. In Long Island, my buddy Alan Rosenberg, the same thing. I drove up there one time, me and him hit up some record stores. So that has also been a big plus in doing all those things.
Yeah, it's same with this podcast. I've met a lot of people.
Yeah, sure.
You do things with them and you hang out sometimes, which is kind of cool. But Steve, so I was watching a bunch of your videos. I think some of the first ones, because you're wearing like a mask.
Oh, yeah.
And there's COVID and stuff. And then so I had seen somewhere a video you were showing of like the concerts you went to, and I recognized a Wet Leg shot.
Yeah.
Because I saw Wet Leg in Chicago in 2025. So then I looked to see what concerts you'd been to, and you had a 2025 concert review kind of thing. And then to my surprise, that was your final episode.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. Things just felt like they were winding down doing those. They were starting to feel a little bit like obligation, and I just like, maybe the video you're talking about like was sort of like my wrap up for 2025. Like I talked about what stores I went to that year, what concerts I went to, and my favorite records of last year and stuff like that. And it just felt like maybe a good way to close up shop in a way. And so that was the decision. But, I did mention in that video, and maybe I was being like a little overly dramatic, saying like, this is my final video. It's been fun, and mentioned some of the people who I'd become friends with over the years on there. But I did note that, I probably would pop up once in a blue moon. I just wasn't going to do it regularly anymore. Like when I started, it was one every week. And then maybe it was like one every 2 weeks or something like that. I don't know. But, honestly, Charles, I mean, I literally was just thinking of this the other day because Record Store Day is coming up. And like I said, I'm in Charleston. I'll go over to Monster Music. There's a couple of things I'm usually into the record store day, but Monster Music, they do all these sales. So I'll go for other reasons. But I was like, yeah, probably I'm going to go over there. I might as well maybe do a video about what I pick up there or whatever. And I was kind of like having regret, like maybe I shouldn't have said that. And like, I don't know that I needed to advertise, like this is my last one. I could have just made the video, not mentioned that, and just kind of faded away a little bit and then pop back up when I wanted to or whatever. So yeah, I don't think it's the end. I think it's just kind of like when there's a reason for me to make a video about something, like if I go to a store that I've never been to before and I want to show it off, I'll do videos still now and then, but it just won't be like a regular thing anymore.
Yeah, because, well, one popped up 3 weeks ago,
Right.
which it was a pop-up record store, right, at DC,
In DC, yeah.
and you highlighted that. Well, yeah, no, you mentioned in the video that you do from time to time.
Yeah, and I definitely think I would. Like I said, I kind of look back now and said I probably shouldn't have said that in the video. I probably should have just internally know that that's what was going to happen, but I didn't need to like advertise it to everybody. But I still plan every now and then to do those, especially if I go to like a store or maybe an area that I want to kind of show off or whatever. But I imagine here and there I'll still continue. Or even if I go visit somebody, a friend, and we're going to go to a record store, like a fellow record collecting friend or whatever, if they do videos, then I might be like, let's do one. Why not? It's been fun. I have enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, and you've been guests on several other people's channels talking about your collection.
Yeah, a couple of them, mostly people that I know who I went to visit, like where we were in the same place or something like that. Like I mentioned JT and Monty, we did videos. For me, it was like cross pollination. I did a video with them and then they did a video with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like anybody needs more. Oh, I need to see that twice on 2 different YouTube channels. But yeah, it's been fun. And I imagine I'll still do them.
Yeah, no, I encourage people to check them out, and you're still doing them from time to time.
Like you mentioned, there's a ton. It's not like the old ones are pointless. If you've never heard of me or seen them, you can obviously go back and watch older ones. It's not going to be like, oh, this isn't relevant anymore.
Yeah, no, I found them to be entertaining and educational.
Educational.
Yeah, like these bands, I never heard of.
I get that a lot. It surprises me. I get that a lot where people are like, I've never heard of any of these bands you're talking about. And I mean, I could see some of them, but some of them I'm like, damn, like even Wet Leg. I mean, there's a lot of people who've never heard of Wet Leg, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, geez, I thought, there's a lot of buzz about them. I would have thought you would at least have heard of them,
Yeah, yeah.
That was a fantastic show, by the way, wasn't it? Wet Leg?
Oh, yeah, that was probably one of the best shows in 2025 that I went to.
Yeah, that was amazing. They were great.
Yeah, it was fantastic. You'd mentioned being overly dramatic, Steve, and you know something about people being dramatic with regard to films and such.
Yeah.
So you'd made this film called Death of an Umbrella Salesman. Did you want to talk about that a little bit? It's a short film shot in black and white. That's part of the humor, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the black and white was kind of like a conscious decision going for like a certain tone. Like it's this kind of weird time place where it's sort of like, is this set in the past or is this in present day? And I think there was something about the black, like originally, the black and white, some of it tied into this idea of some of those old, almost like propaganda kind of films that they play, like don't smoke cigarettes and all those kinds of things. And I mean, it's not really in that, but like, I think the original idea was kind of revolving around that kind of tone of something. But yeah, I went to film school. I've been bouncing around like the indie film world for a long time. Lots of ups and downs, lots of roller coaster trips. When I was working on a TV show in Baton Rouge, we were back in Baton Rouge like for the second season, and we were going to be there for like 8 months or something like that. I'd made some friends. Some of the people from the first season were back, and we'd become friends and everything. And we'd have weekends off or whatever. And when I went down there, I was like, why don't we make a short film on our time off? So I'd written the script for Death of an Umbrella Salesman. And, I thought it'd be cool making a film down there with some of the people from the crew because it was not where I was from. It was a unique location. And I thought it'd be kind of fun to make a film somewhere else instead of where I grew up or where I was from. And we had a blast making it, and it did pretty well with those short films. You go to film festivals and all that stuff, and it played and got some pretty good notices. It's on Amazon. It's on YouTube. You can find it to watch or whatever. And we did another one maybe like a year or two after that called Waimea. And the bummer of that one was we finished it, We shot that right before COVID. And when I finished it, I think I finished it before COVID hit. But when COVID hit, that's when we would be submitting to festivals. And obviously all the festivals kind of got wiped out. So that one was a little disappointing in that sense that it really had a festival run, but it was kind of wonky. Luckily, maybe a year or two later, the last screening that it had was in like a legit theater. So we were able to all gather and see it with a crowd on a big screen because we really, up until that point, most of the screenings had been festivals were online at the time. That's all they could be. So it was a little disappointing, but we're still kicking around some ideas and kind of working on some stuff. We're working on a documentary right now. Me and my friend Doug are working on a documentary about this dude who was in the band Hot Tuna. He was the drummer. He's also an artist. So we've been filming a lot of stuff with him lately. That's a project we've been working on or concentrating on lately, just kind of this documentary, which isn't really my thing, but it's been a pretty interesting endeavor, kind of maneuver in that environment. But yeah, been fun. That's the gist of that. And again, and not to go down this rabbit hole, but like that whole world has really changed over the last couple of years. So even trying to figure out what that all is these days or what to do with things, there's things that are easier about it and things that are more difficult, and so it's a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, and you said you shot a music video for a friend of yours is in a band or something?
Yeah, they have kind of a garage rock band. They put out like a record maybe 2 years ago, I think, or a year ago. I have friends who are filmmakers, who are musicians, whatever. I'm always down to support them. Like if they're playing a show, I'll try to go see them or whatever. So my friend Richard, his band is called Man Flesh, like a garage rock band. They put out this record and I just kind of reached out to him like, hey, you thinking of doing a music video or whatever? Like I think I mentioned earlier, I love music videos. I grew up on them, couldn't get enough of them when I was younger. And I've always loved that format. And so I just asked him if he was thinking of doing one and he was like, yeah. And I said, what are you thinking? And I think he had it in mind to do a video for this particular song called The Road to Wick. Just kind of a little different than a lot of their other stuff. It's a little more poppy than some of their other music. I was like, well, what's the idea? And he told me the idea. And I was like, nothing against him, but I was like, I think I got a better idea than that, And I told him my idea. And I was working with a friend of mine named Danielle Hoffman. She and I were kind of hashing out the idea that I had for the video and bringing it to life and figuring it out. And he was into the idea. He liked the idea a lot. And we shot that. And then that came out really good. I thought we did a good job on that one. And just immediately was like, well, let's do another one right away, So we did another song called Shingy Shoe, which is kind of like a swamp rock kind of boogie kind of tune. And we did a video for that, which was really good, which was all set there was a record store not far from me called Low Fidelic Records. And the owner, David, let us film in his record shop. And so music fans, I think, would really dig that. The whole video, it's surrounded by physical media and vinyl and CDs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that one came out really well. I like that one. And I thought it might. There's certain film festivals that play music videos. They program music videos, and that one is going to be screening at a Coney Island Film Festival coming up pretty soon. So unfortunately, I won't be able to be there. Richard will be there, and some other people who worked on the video will be there. But that's cool. It's cool to think that some people will get to experience that, and it'll introduce some people to Richard's band. Yeah, that's been a lot of fun. I mean, I really liked that format of working, because it's sort of like you come up with the idea last week, we'll shoot it this week and post it next week. I don't know. That format, like I said, I've always been a fan of, and I really enjoy that. And I would love to do some more of those in the future. It's just a lot of fun making those. The stuff doesn't even have to make sense when you do music video.
Yeah, my buddy sent me this video from the 70s of the band Ram Jam.
Right.
Playing Black Betty.
Okay, yeah.
They're like these dudes in like somebody's backyard. There's barbecue going, but it's not a good video.
I think I've seen that. Yeah.
Well, I guess it is, but it's kind of hilarious to watch. But in some ways, it's fitting, too. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because like that video we did for Shingy Shoe, if you really break down, or both of them actually, like if you really break down the lyrics or whatever, they have almost nothing to do with what we made the video about, but it's more about the feel.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about like Black Betty, like a barbecue backyard, even if it doesn't really line up with what the song's about, but it feels right. You know what I mean? The videos we did, we're not like interpreting the song's lyrics necessarily. It's more about the feel of it. And that's what we've kind of gone on when we've made these videos. It's more like this fits with this song, whether the lyrics make sense to like what you're seeing or not, but just works. But it's been a lot of fun doing them. Those were the first music videos I've ever really made. I don't know why. I love them so much. I don't know why I didn't pursue that more earlier on, you know?
Yeah, it makes sense, right? Well, Steve, we're coming up on time here. Is there anything you'd like to plug or highlight or talk about that we didn't cover today?
Just everyone should listen to this podcast. It's a blast. I mean, it's fun. It's a blast listening to people's stories from their concerts. You know, I mean, I really enjoy hearing those stories and hearing people's tales. And they're just these little intricate details of their first concert or what stands out about it or whatever. But yeah, sure, go watch my record videos on YouTube or go watch the short films, whatever. But it's just been a blast. I really enjoyed listening to your podcast and your guests and everything. And it's fun talking music with people. You sometimes forget that because I don't know, things have changed so much that maybe your circle of friends don't have those conversations as much anymore, you know? It's always fun finding other people to talk about music with, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's our tagline. Everyone has a concert story. Let's hear yours. And usually it's true.
And most of them somehow come back to Gigi Allen, don't they? No.
Yeah, I had a chance to see him at this place called Exit in Chicago. And I think the show lasted about literally 40 seconds.
I've seen there's a couple of documentaries about him. I think there's a famous one called Hated. I think that's the title of it. But I've seen footage of his concerts and yeah, I mean, I don't know if anybody has seen Gigi Allen live and they come on your show to talk to you. I don't know how they don't discuss that concert. You know what I mean? It'd be like,
yeah,
you know, you're talking about seeing Cyndi Lauper when you have a Gigi Allen story to tell. What are you talking about, man? What's wrong with you? I mean, those shows just, I don't know. That's another level of commitment of fandom to go to a Gigi Allen show, you know?
That's some crazy, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, people check out your YouTube channel, get schooled a little bit on these record stores across the country and your vinyl and your analysis of the CDs you have and the whole bit. Thanks for coming on Seeing Them Live.
Thank you, Charles.
That's a wrap for our show. I want to thank today's guests for sharing their concert stories with us. Make sure to check out our show notes at seeingthemlive.com for links to websites, photos, and other artifacts mentioned in the show. I also want to thank my producer, Doug Florzak. The theme music for the show was composed by Doug and is featured on his album, Flagstone. If you have a concert story you'd like to share on our podcast, please visit our website and click on Become a Guest in the main menu. Then fill out the form and click the Submit button. If you seem like a good fit for the show, we'll contact you via email. I guess it's time to head for the exits. We'll see you next time on Seeing Them Live.